Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I figured it was time for me to finally do this. As you may or may not know, in my last video, I said that there has been a lot of rightful criticism of it, and I decided that the best way to address them at this point would be a follow-up video concerning its many problems, rather than typing out a long response to each comment. And the reason it took so long is because some life stuff got in the way. You know how it is. Before we get into it, I want to apologize first and foremost for the bad audio with this one. Again, I kind of want to get this out as fast as possible at this point, so I won't be doing any editing on the audio. You may hear some background noise here and there. My voice may be poorly balanced. I may be too loud at some places and too quiet at some others. I apologize for that. I will cut a lot of pauses and ums and uhs and stuff like that, but that will be about it because I don't want to spend that much time, making this one. There won't be any visuals either other than what's directly on my screen and what I'm reading and showing. So I want to start first and foremost with some of the issues with my general work ethic making these videos, which I previously justified with the reason that I'm not, a professional YouTuber. I don't do this full time. So I kept saying myself, this is fine. It's whatever. You have a good reason not to spend as much time or thought with these things because you have a day job and you're busy and you can barely get this much out anyway and blah blah blah. But now that one of my videos actually got, sort of a significant amount of views, I would say, compared to my older stuff, I don't really have that much of an excuse, and these cracks start to make themselves apparent, I think, with the view number like this, 6k views. That's huge, actually. Again, thank you very much. Before this one, my most watched actual long form video like this had 1k views, which was the Signalis review. So this is still crazy to see, and subscriber count also rose from 125 to 176, or 126 to 176, I think. I got 50 subscribers basically is what I'm saying from this one video, which has been huge for me. Again, thank you very much. With all that being said, let's get to what is wrong with my videos generally. So I don't think these problems were that apparent in any of my previous stuff. It was really this one video, this specific video, that these issues were all in their worst. And because it probably had FNAF in the title, it ended up being my most popular video, which is kind of a shame. That is basically the reason I'm happy that it stopped blowing up where it did. 6k views. If this got more than that, if it somehow ended up making my channel blow up or something like that, I don't think I could handle that, honestly. Even now, this video is kind of hard for me to watch. All of my videos are kind of hard for me to watch. I kind of hate watching my previous videos, honestly. But this one is kind of a special case. So the issue with my work process is basically I avoid making anything too long. I try to keep my videos below 30 minutes or around 30 minutes at most. And this video was already breaking that rule with the amount of things I've written for it, with the length of the script that I already had. So I kind of had to make myself stop and omit some things, because otherwise it could have reached an hour or something like that. And when I do that, I kind of lose my motivation to continue working on the video after some point and end up canceling the whole project. It's happened with a couple of videos before, and I really didn't want it to happen with this one. But because of that, I really ended up leaving out some important information, especially in the last part of this video. The part where I rant about new FNAF is basically where I talk about 4 whole games, Help Wanted 1 and 2, even though they are in technical aspects very full feature, complete games with no technical issues or stuff like that, I still find them to be dissatisfying, like story-wise, along with the Security Breach and Ruin games. And like, basically I try to like voice all those problems in like 4 to 5 minutes, whereas in the previous sections of the video, even like Sister Location by itself gets like a whole 10 minutes almost. So like that was one of the biggest issues with the video, I feel. Like the part when I reached here, I was already in the process of thinking, okay, I have to finish this script soon, I can't make this video any longer or else I will burn myself out while making it. So I ended up not writing a whole lot for this section, even though I definitely needed to explain more of my gripes with the Steelwool games in a more concise and like less aggressive and emotional way, but we will come to that. So that is the first issue, is that, poor planning, basically. It's fine to want to keep your videos under a certain length, but if you're going to do that and make your video a multi-section one like this, it is a good idea to plan out each section's length better so that, it is paced well and like you don't actually like leave yourself with 4 or 5 minutes to talk about basically the most important part of the video, like the conclusion part of the video. So yeah, that was a bad idea. The second thing is, I have this IRL friend, my IRL best friend, and he watches my videos, God bless him. He actually takes the time to like watch everything that I make and like give me feedback on it and stuff. And like I kind of used him as a baseline for people that are not familiar with the stuff that I may be talking about in the video. So for this video, for instance, I tried to explain things in a way that even if someone that isn't familiar with FNAF were to watch this video, they could understand what I was talking about and like where I was coming from. And again, I used him as a baseline for that like hypothetical audience that might not be familiar with FNAF yet still decide to watch this video, which might have not been the best idea, because a video like this is probably not going to catch the attention of someone that is not into FNAF in the first place. I wouldn't realistically expect someone that's not already into FNAF to watch this video just because the title or thumbnail is interesting or because they are sub to me. So in reality, it was really a decision I made for that one friend rather than that hypothetical audience, which sounds sweet and wholesome, but in this case I feel like it would have been much better if I assumed everyone that were to watch this video to be FNAF fans already, or at least like given a disclaimer at the beginning that the video is for people that are familiar with FNAF and like into the series and like know about the lore and stuff. Like that would have been much better probably, because without that, a lot of this video ended up being an explanation of like a lot of basic stuff like the save them minigames. Most fans, not even most, like almost all of the fans, and thus almost everyone that watched this video was already familiar with. Like, I didn't need to explain this shit in such detail, but I did it for that one friend. And as much as it hurts me to say this, if I want my videos to be better from now on, I think I need to like start considering the general audience of the video a lot more than specifically him in the future. Because if I didn't explain everything this much in detail, like explain all this basic shit, like the fucking FNAF, what the FNAF 2 minigames were and stuff, and what happened in the FNAF 3 cutscenes and stuff like that. If I just made the video assuming that people are already familiar with this and already like know the basics of this stuff, the video could have been a lot more concise. It could have been a lot shorter, paced a lot better, and like actually leave me more time at the end to talk about new FNAF like I just said. So that's probably something that future me should take into account. Because after all, like, I'm not making these videos to share in our private Discord with my IRL close friend group. I'm making these videos for YouTube, for the intended audience to watch. So from now on, this will be something that I pay attention to, hopefully. So now I want to go over some specific comments, and I want to start with this one because this was really the comment that made me realize how many things were actually wrong with my video. Like, I do think that this person makes some great points. So I'm going to read it word by word along with my response to it, along with their sweet response to my response. This was just all around a great discussion, honestly, and I think it will do a lot to like make people understand what I made wrong and what I should have done. So Nocturnal Lavenge says, yes, I'm invested in the new storyline. Yes, you can actually not like that much the old story, so I joined only after Security Breach. It is obvious that in the new storyline, the Mimic is the one we are trying to stop. The only reason why it was botched at the start is because Scott and Steelwool had a big miscommunication, so in Security Breach, Steelwool were guessing what Scott wanted the story to be, and they guessed wrong. Fortunately, all the later stuff, of course, corrected it. Fortunately, all the later stuff course corrected it. What is Five Nights at Freddy's about? Well, right now it's about animatronics. They are the highlight of all the newer games, hence why glamrocks are so popular. If you don't see their stories or don't want to see their stories as something you can quote-unquote shed a tear on, well, what can I say? Each to their own, I guess they were trying to say. And no, your younger audience argument doesn't work that well with me, which is a great point, and I will come to that shortly. Why should we care? If you don't like the course of the new story, then of course you wouldn't care. But why try to put it in a way, quote unquote, nobody cares, when it's obviously because of your own disinterest? By the way, taking reactions of different people to FNAF trailers seems quite disingenuous. You can do this with every media to prove something. Hope I talked about most of the important points mentioned without appearing aggressive or something. And I responded, no, thank you for the thoughtful criticism. You have some valid points. I want to start with a clarification on what I was trying to do with this video. It wasn't really meant to be a fact-based rebuttal, but more of an opinion piece based on my own emotions and interests. Yes, you are correct in saying that it's due to my own disinterest that I'm no longer invested in the newer games, and this video wasn't meant to mask that, but to clarify why I'm disinterested. I agree that I could have made it more in line with that at some points, like saying why should I care instead of why should we care. And this is admittedly at its worst with the main plot point, main point of the video that FNAF isn't about anything anymore. The thing is, FNAF doesn't have anything I find meaningful in it anymore, doesn't really have the same weight, nor does the title What I Cared About in Old FNAF doesn't exist in New FNAF. Because I often feel that it's already implied that I'm just sharing an opinion. I try to make the videos more engaging by sacrificing some of that clarification. So what I'm trying to say here is basically I try to put as little I think and in my opinion in my scripts because I trust that it's already going to be understood that it's my opinion. But it's true that I fail to strike that balance sometimes and things become too emotionally charged. You are completely right about your younger audience comment. Yes, I don't care much for the glamrocks and I do think that they're made to appeal to a younger audience as well as many other things in SP and Ruin. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with anyone outside of that audience enjoying it either. I enjoy a lot of things like that too, and I shouldn't have been so hostile and belittling with my words in that section. Again, I hope that I'll get better at this with time, because there is absolutely a right way to put powerful emotions behind your words without losing yourself in them and staying on the more intellectual side. Jacob Geller comes to mind as someone that does this well. So this is what I'm most ashamed of in this video. There is definitely a better way to go about criticizing something that you don't enjoy. You should never like sugarcoat your criticisms for a piece of media. And I'm not saying that you should. You should always be completely honest about the stuff that you like and don't like. But you shouldn't present them in a way that insults or like belittles anyone that doesn't agree with you. You know, you shouldn't like talk about how much you don't like something by calling everyone that likes it dumb kids, or like basically implying that at least. I think I got like so carried away at the final part of that video, because I thought that like if I make this thing as emotionally charged as possible, it will come off as passionate. It will come off as like I have this fire within me that is burning for like what the old FNAF stood for and how much I loved it, you know, being really aggressive and sounding so disappointed. I am disappointed, but like I guess kind of like dramatizing my script, I guess you could say. I mean, I do this at other points in the video too. Like someone even mocks me for it. Can I find that comment actually? Let me check. Right, here we go. Tragedy, purgatory, restlessness, vengeance, and even hell are not good things to fill yourself with. So yeah. This person, I believe, is just basically poking fun at like how dramatic I was at that part of the video. And like you're completely right. And I tried to basically like kind of keep that tone intact for the rest of the video as well. But the thing is, like when you go that hard with like how dramatic you want to be with things, just like I did, you can easily get carried away. And like when you're talking about something that you don't like, it can easily turn into like insulting its audience, and that's what happened basically. And I'm really like sorry for that. Like genuinely, that was a mistake, and I will try not to do that again. I just want to say, like, if you care about the newer games, if you like the Steelwool games, if you like the Glamrock animatronics, the new storyline, that is completely valid. Like I never wanted to make it sound like people who do care about that stuff are stupid, but it did end up sounding that way in the video, and I regret that. Like, genuinely, I regret that. And the audacity for me to then say at the end, like, hey, tell me what you like about the new stuff, if there is any, and let's see if we can reach a new perspective, as if I sounded that open to the idea during the rest of the video. So, yeah, you know, that was definitely the biggest shortcoming of the video, I feel. And this also again like ties back to the fact that I only left this part of the video like 4 or 5 minutes to talk about. You can probably already tell, but like I don't care about the Glamrocks. I don't care about like, oh, how cool and fucking 80s the Pizzaplex feels and how great and grand it is. You can tell that I think that Princess Quest is kind of cool because I use the music in the background here in this section. But I don't particularly care about the lore in that either. I don't particularly care for the Mimic, anything like that. I think it's like a really poor writing decision to basically just introduce this character that has the power to mimic things, so that like whenever there's a plot hole or something like that, you know, you can fill it sort of in the way that allows you to say, oh, it was the Mimic, it was just mimicking this character, it was actually the Mimic doing that, you know, stuff like that. But again, I could have like expressed and explained these things in detail in this section if I just like paced this video better and left more time for myself to talk about new FNAF here. Like I could have gone into why I don't particularly care for the Glamrocks either. Basically the reason I kind of find it difficult to care about the Glamrocks is, you know, not just because they aren't possessed. Like I am open to feeling for a machine, but like whenever I usually feel for a machine, it's something like, you know, the Iron Giant or Wally or something like that. So this channel, Squam Populous, actually has a great video on the subject called The Saddest Trope in Fiction. As you can probably get from the thumbnail, it's about like robots that feel and stuff. So like when a machine is kind of innocent at the beginning, like it doesn't really understand humans or human emotions or things like that, and then as it like begins to understand them and feel them, like combined with that innocence that was there at the beginning, it just sort of bursts this story that is like really heartfelt, something that really doesn't have as complete of a grasp on the world as a human does, like trying to understand things like love and rejecting to be a weapon, like in the Iron Giant, for instance. Like those sort of stories gets me. Another type of like story that gets me where I feel about robots is like when they're basically humanoids, like they're basically like androids, like in Nier Automata and Signalis and stuff like that. Like Elster is technically a robot, but like she isn't really, like she feels, she thinks, she looks like a human being. 2B, 9S, all those characters in Nier Automata, they're kind of the same too. Those two like types of stories are like really successful at making me care about machines, where like in one, it's emphasized that's like, oh yeah, this is a machine, this is not supposed to happen, like this is, as the thumbnail says here, like this was not coded to cry. But it is, and that's tragic. Like, why is that happening? That's so fucked up, And the other one is basically like, this is just an artificial human, like in Signalis and Nier Automata again. When it's one of those, it never really has a hard time making me care. But like, here's the thing in FNAF, these things are supposed to be animatronics, yet they don't really feel like animatronics. Like, it's not just the advanced movement and stuff. Like, to be honest, like even Boston Dynamics doesn't build shit like this right now. Like Monty and Roxy, they leap at you and pounce at you, run at you, like incredible speeds. Not incredible speeds really, like you can outrun them pretty easily, but you know what I'm saying. And on top of that, like they have this personality coded into them that is not really that three-dimensional. Their personalities, for the most part, each of them have like pretty simple personalities. Like, Roxy's a narcissist. When she's evil, she's a narcissist, I guess. When she's good, she doesn't really display any of those qualities. But deep down, like, she's really insecure. And, like, that is how it surfaces, like, as kind of this, like, constant need to like reaffirm herself that she's beautiful and pretty and stuff like that. I guess that's fine, but like when you think about what these robots were built for, it really doesn't make much sense to me. Like Roxy could be programmed to like exhibit these behaviors while on stage or while at events, signings and stuff like that, like in front of kids basically, But like she displays these personality traits when she's alone in her room, which like kind of implies sentience to me. And like, why are they sentient? What benefit does that have? Like, I would say that when you build robots to like sing at stage and like entertain children and like that is their purpose, you wouldn't really want them to be truly sentient, even if you have the ability to make that happen. It's just kind of weird to me. Then you have scenes like this where like Roxy's clearly exhibiting like genuine care for Cassie and stuff, and then Cassie like jabs her Faz wrench or whatever into her eye and like shuts her down. That reminds you, oh yeah, she's actually a robot. Not like a robot possessed by a soul or anything, just an actual robot that is sentient when it's on for some reason. And it's just this weird middle ground. It's not really a person, but it's not really a robot in the traditional sense either. It's not just a machine that's like running fucking simple if-else statements. It has sentience, but I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it's bad, like that person said. It's because of my own disinterest towards this kind of premise that I can't really bring myself to care about. Like, this concept just doesn't appeal to me as much, I guess, as like the other two concepts that I just talked about. And another reason is that they're just not fleshed out that much yet. Like, Roxy has some significant screen time in Ruin, combined with her relatively more limited but still significant screen time in Security Breach. So she gets some stuff, I guess. And like Freddy obviously gets a lot of stuff. I would even say like he's one of the best things to come out of new FNAF. Like Glamrock Freddy, totally like awesome fucking character. But like I wouldn't really be sad if something happened to him. Like I would be sad for like the puppet or like, I don't know, one of the ghost kids from the original games. You know what I'm saying? Like, even in its best form, like, it's just not something that really draws me in. It's something that's I still find hard to care about. Like even Glamrock Freddy with all this screen time still doesn't exactly feels like a person, even though it is sentient. It still feels like a robot that is just like really coded to the brim, I guess, with personality traits. I don't know. I'm just not really big on this concept, I guess. And another reason is honestly the designs of the Glamrocks. If you can tell, I was much more invested when the animatronics had simpler designs. Like Roxy especially really throws me off guard, because I know that this comment is really going to hurt a bunch of people, but like I look at Roxy's design. Let me like actually come here or something for that. And so let me finally come to what you're all here for. Yeah, okay, yeah, here. This just looks like someone's DeviantArt OC. Like, I'm sorry, but this character just looks like Gooner bait. Even Glamrock Chica to some extent looks like that, but like not so much. Roxy, I look at Roxy, I'm like, did someone draw this character to be like gooning material, and then someone thought like it was good enough to put in a FNAF game? I just really do not vibe with this design. I don't know what else to say. The other designs like Monty and Freddy, I don't know, I don't really particularly feel much for them either. Monty's like mohawk thing up here looks kind of stupid, I think. I'm not really big on the color schemes either, like the purple. I don't know, man. It could have been just a darker green or something, or like, I don't fucking know. Freddy's fine, I guess. I don't really like these fucking spiky bracelet things they all have either. Fucking anyways, I mean, what I'm getting at is that these designs really do not appeal to me, and I even find them repulsive to some degree. Especially like Roxy here. But I won't dwell on this for much too longer. I will defend myself against one point you raised, though. I was not trying to use anyone's reactions to prove a point I wanted to make. At the start, I used Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and Fiznum's clips where they reacted to security breach breaking itself. Not to go, look, these people agree that I'm right about these games, but to go, I more often see people focusing on how broken these games are on a technical level, such as these instances, but I want to focus on something different. It was more to highlight what I don't think are the game's biggest issues. And at the end, I showed reactions of Daryl Talks Games, Maximilian Dude, Angry Joe Show, and Oboshu's games, not to go, see, they also think it's pointless, but to go, these people make fun of or laugh at FNAF on the first second of a trailer thinking it has nothing worth to experience, which is wrong, but the game would sadly prove them right if they played it, and that's what upsets me. So to further explain this, I want to go over this part of the video once more. Do you remember this sentence from the beginning of the video? The idea that the series which led their dumb, snotty 10-year-old cousin to scream about purple guys and golden Freddy's back in the day like it's peak fiction can have anything of actual value in it is so asinine. So I'm going back to like something I said at the beginning of the video here, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want to give a few examples here of this notion. I'm not trying to use these examples as a way to prove myself right, but as a way to exemplify what I just said here about like people looking at this series and immediately going like, despite having no experience in it firsthand themselves, immediately going like, oh, this thing has no fucking value. I can just like see any trailer of any of the games in this series or like any promotional material and just like point and laugh at it and go, haha, Freddy Fazbear, har 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 har. There's nothing else in it. That's what I was trying to say. I was trying to make the argument here like this series has always been more than that, but people have never seen it as more at large, I guess you could say. I didn't just say this because of my own assumptions. I said this because I see it all the time. People... Right, so like I just said here, I see that notion all the time, and now I'm gonna give a few examples of that. It's not me going, hey, look, these people see Five Nights at Freddy's and laugh like I do right now. Like, no, I don't do that. I am disappointed in the newer games, but like a large portion of the gaming community, I feel, has always looked at these games as like, haha, child bait, you know? Child bait in the sense like, it's some like dumb game theory bullshit made for like young children to enjoy and like nothing else of substances in there. This has not started in Security Breach at all or in any other like newer FNAF game. It had always been there like day one for some people. Not us fans of the series obviously, but like for the people looking at the series from the outside, it has just been that. And like that's what I was trying to say here and like show these examples of people treating it as such. People merely hear the name of this series and it's instantly a joke to them.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Wow, what a timeline. Five Nights at Freddy's gets 2 votes.
The idea of ever interacting with any of these games seriously doesn't even compute in their mind. So I am showing the Security Breach trailer here. This is not to go, hey, look at this person laughing at the Security Breach trailer. I am so right, guys. I say the new games are bad and these people also think they're bad just by looking at the trailers and therefore I'm right. Like, that's literally not what I am trying to do here. I am trying to showcase, with a few examples, how people just see the name or the logo Five Nights at Freddy's or like see a bunny mask that like indicates, okay, this is going to be a Five Nights at Freddy's thing. And like before even watching the trailer or like before even knowing anything about the game basically, they just go, oh haha, look guys, it's fucking Silent Hill. And shit like that, you know, to like imply that it is inherently a lesser game than Silent Hill and Resident Evil and stuff like that, which I do think those games are better, but like that shouldn't just be your like first reaction to a game trailer from like second one, you know, unless you have some like bias against it, which people do have a bias against FNAF, the series in general, not just the newer games. This has been there since day one. That's what I was trying to like show here.
Damn, Silent Hill's looking crazy.
And like keep in mind, like I am not showing these examples to like dogpile on these people either. We're all flawed human beings here. Like I just said, I made a bunch of like mistakes in this video and like insulted the fans needlessly of the newer games and such. Like I like Maximilian, dude. I watch his videos. That like that's why he's the example I used here anyway, because I am familiar with him. And I know like he never looks at any of these games from a serious lens. You know, despite not really knowing anything about them, he just like goes off of the very few and far between impressions he gets, I am guessing, from like kids here and there like screaming about game theory and stuff like that, and he thinks like, oh, this FNAF thing is just like a huge fucking meme and like nothing more.
Damn, look at this Silent Hill game.
Like he is completely
Jesus.
unable to take any of this seriously. And like, I am not showing this as a good thing. I am not showing this as a sign of, hey, look guys, no one is taking the new game seriously anymore. Like, no, these people never took these games seriously from day one. And it's continuing to this day, and it's not a good thing. Like, I am not showing this as a good thing. Like, I am not showing this as a support for my argument.
Fear takes hold, the hills get silent in Silent Hill.
Yeah!
These are like just the reactions that I could find, because like this was an actual FNAF trailer that made it into a Sony State of Play, which is an event that these people react to. Like I couldn't find any of them really, you know, reacting to the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 trailer or to the FNAF 3 trailer or something like that. If I could, like I could have put those here as well. It's just this one because FNAF is at this point actually making it to big events like this, which should be something to celebrate. But like because of this like negative bias against the series by people at large, it's never being seen as like a real game, you know, a real game series that is worth anything. Like it is just made fun of whenever it appears in things like this.
Resident Evil!
Silent Hill! It's Silent Hill, Joe! That's not scary.
You're
Five
small!
Nights at Bunny's.
But now, you want more. Are you ready?
It is Willy's Wonderland, the game.
Oh, they ripped off Willy's Wonderland.
Like it has been like 10 seconds and like no one is even willing to give it even a chance to like impress them. It starts, and from second one, the moment the bunny mask appears, it's like, oh, it's the fucking FNAF thing, it's a joke, it's a meme, like let's move on, let's get to real games, guys. You know what I mean?
Yep.
if they ever say anything positive about these games, it's either ironic or for a bit.
Dude, FNAF. They got FNAF and Funko Pop. I can't believe it. I can't believe they really did it. All right, FNAF time. Here we go. It's finally time. Let's FNAF and go. I gotta solve the crime. I gotta solve the bite of 87. Oh, yeah, here we go. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory.
Like, this has been how everyone saw the series ever. Besides its fans, besides the people that actually know what it's about, like actually are into it. Because of this, like, it has been memed. And like, it has been seen as nothing more than basically this. Like, what I have just shown. Like, that is what I was trying to show here. I was never trying to be like, hey guys, FNAF is nothing, like, it is just game theory bullshit and like nothing of substance. Look, these people agree with me. No, I was saying, never mind, you get what I mean. I am over explaining it. You get by now what I'm trying to mean. I won't like dwell on it more. I could respect a broken game that tried to be something. Okay, so this is another thing. This was insane of me to say. For all its faults, the Steelwool games are not soulless fucking cash grabs that don't try to do anything. Like, Steelwool does work hard for their games, whether you like them or not. I obviously don't, but like a lot of people do. And I have respect for them, and I have respect for Steelwool as well, for all their efforts and all the love and care that they put into the games. This is again another instance of me, just like when I insulted the fans for like being fucking babies that pog at game theory bullshit and like don't have any brain cells beyond that. Like, this was just me getting carried away in my own argument and feelings and like unable to staying calm and collected to like actually sound reasonable. I think these are not games that don't ever try to be anything. There are plenty of games like that. I just recently played Fear 3. Let me tell you, that game is like, they saw COD, they saw how well COD was doing, and then they just butchered their entire game series to be called. Steelwool has actually tried. Of course, they didn't succeed at all, according to some people, including me. But a lot of others have actually fallen in love with what they have achieved. Like, people do care, again, about the glam rocks and the pizzaplex and stuff like that. And that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to make the games special in some way. They were trying to make the game something. And so this comment of mine that I just say here,
To Game Theory.
I could respect a broken game that tried to be something. It was trying to be something, dude. What are you talking about? Like, I was just going insane here. Just because like it didn't get to be something according to my own interests and my own tastes, that doesn't mean like it was a soulless fucking cash grab that never cared to be anything special for his fans. It's just so unfair. There was actually a comment that was arguing this too, by the way. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so I checked for a while and I couldn't actually find that comment. I think the person that posted it earlier might have actually deleted it, but there was a comment that said something that was like, oh, I know what new FNAF is about. It's about money. That's why it's so bad. And like, I could talk shit about Steelwool's games for days. You could say a lot of things about them. The one thing I wouldn't say is that they're bad because their only like concern is money. Like no. That is not the issue here. The issue is not just Steelwool going, okay, how could we make the most money with the least effort possible? And the thing is, I feel like people often overlook this because they have such fondness for the original games. Or like, not even just in the FNAF community. Like, this is true for every community, I feel. When people like something, they are quick to like see it as a purely passion project that never had any concern for how much money it would make or like how many copies it would sell or anything like that. That is just an insane way to think, I think. Because like, things can be both for passion and for money. Like, these two things are not very mutually exclusive. And like, you are actually staring at one of the examples here. Like, when I was writing the script for this video, when I had the idea for this video, like, I was really excited to make it because like, not only was this a subject that I was passionate about, but because it had FNAF in the title, because it was a FNAF video, I was confident that it would actually draw in more views than most of my other videos. And to no one's surprise, basically, like, it did. It is my most successful like long form video so far. But like, I didn't do it solely because it would get views. I did it also because I wanted to talk about this. Like, you can make things for passion and for money. And the original FNAF series was made like that. Scott was releasing that shit so frequently, like pumping those games out so quickly because he saw the success of the first game and wanted to capitalize on it. But like at the same time, he didn't just want to half-ass it, so there was also a lot of love and care put into them too. You can make things for passion and for money. Like that is not impossible. But anyway, let's just play the rest of this now, and then I'll return to the comments again. Everyone can respect a game like that. I could tolerate poor writing, a rushed production, or even straight up bad game design if I could only see a spark somewhere, anywhere that sacrifice was for. Dude. Game design. If I could only... You were looking right at the spark, like... You know, this was the spark. I mean, this is not a very flattering flattering shot of that, but like Roxy here was an example of that. Like, people cared about this character, people cared about the glam rocks. I was just talking out of my ass here again. I see a spark somewhere, anywhere that sacrifice was for. What I can't stand is a bunch of games that do nothing but prove these people right. This series is about nothing now. Yeah, so again, this point is wrong. Like, this series isn't about nothing now. It's just like because of the like miscommunications with Scott. I'm sorry, I mean the miscommunications between Scott and Steelwool. It's like had a rough time finding its footing. It is now trying to go places. It's not really, again, like going to a place that I personally really care about, or doing it in a way that I really personally care for. You know, if you're going to like focus on Vanny and the Mimic and stuff like that, first of all, maybe give them more screen time. Maybe like we could actually start to give these characters more than just like one cutscene each game. We're not in the Scott era anymore. We have the budgets. We don't have to stick to the same storytelling principles anymore. We could try newer things with the storytelling of the series as well, just as we are trying new things with the gameplay. But again, like that's just my perspective. What I say here at the beginning, somewhere, anywhere that sacrifice was for. What I can't stand is a bunch of games that do nothing but prove these people right. Right, what I can't stand is a bunch of games that do nothing but prove these people right. So this was basically what I was using those reactions for. Again, like this was not an ideal way to make my point, but what I was trying to do was to say that, you know, people have judged a book by its cover for the longest time when it came to this series. These sorts of reactions have always existed towards this series, and nowadays I feel like I couldn't really argue against their reactions, because if I actually made any of these people try the new games, they would actually see that their bias was right, and that upsets me. Like, that was the argument that I was trying to make here, basically. It wasn't really a good argument. Like I said, I was wrong with what I was saying here, but I wasn't trying to be like, hey, look, these people's reactions support what I'm saying about like this series being so fucking bad now. Like, look at Angry Joe. Okay, I clicked on Max by accident. Look at like Maximilian seeing this and making fun of it. I wasn't trying to paint this as an evidence of my argument about like how the series is bad now. I was trying to paint this action itself as something bad, but also as something that I wouldn't be able to show nowadays with the newer games why it's wrong. I said that so fucking incorrectly, but you get what I mean. Like, that was what I was trying to say here, basically. The point you raised about Scott and Steelwool's miscommunication is entirely correct, and I tried to address that in the pinned comment because I definitely gave off the wrong idea in the video. The Scott era and Steelwool era were phrases I came up with to specify the time frames, not to introduce scapegoats. Help Wanted 1, Security Breach, Ruin, and Help Wanted 2 are Steelwool games, games, so I called them the Steelwool era. It was not my intention to put all the blame on Steelwool for how I feel about the new games. I know Scott fucked up big time there, and it wasn't my intent to act as if he was this perfect goat while Steelwool are all talentless hacks. But yes, this was not communicated well in the video at all, and I did realize it before uploading the thing, but I was honestly just kind of burnt out and got lazy, so I just clarified it in a pinned comment, which can easily be missed. I have no excuse for that, and I have to do better next time. I want to say one last thing, but more as a general sentiment. I genuinely don't enjoy being this negative in my videos. I more often make vids on things that I love and think people should check out, not dunking on things that others enjoy. Even in this video, I tried to spend more time discussing why I love the old games so much rather than why I don't like the new games so much. I am bitter about the new direction of the series, but it didn't need to come off as hostility to its fans. I really don't have a personal vendetta against any dev or fan of this new era, and I'm happy that you were able to find something that gripped you where I couldn't. Thank you for watching. So yeah, I don't really need to elaborate on this last paragraph. Basically, go watch my other videos on the channel, guys. Like, they are much better than this one. Especially my Signalis and Outer Wilds videos. I am really proud of those two. Now let me just go over the person's sweet response to all this, and like we can wrap up this comment finally. I won't like go over every single comment like this. This was just a very important one. I will be going over a few other comments after this one, but I won't be spending as much time with any of them. Not because like they're not as well thought out, or because they're addressing like much less important issues, but like because I already talked about most of the problems that I want to talk about. So anyway, Nocturnal Lavenge replied to my answer with, "Thank you for a very elaborate answer. The only thing I can add a little bit more is that while Security Breach has a vibe of being bright and feel lighthearted, it actually still has a very dark and tragic story. Again, I don't really see it that way. It isn't really that dark and tragic to me when the atmosphere feels so subpar compared to the older games, and like the characters are so much harder for me to care about. Like the tragic side is really loses most of its meaning to me. But like again, that is just my perspective, and like you are completely justified to feel this way. Like if it is dark and tragic to you, then like all the power to you. If you can enjoy what Security Breach presents, that is completely valid. I sometimes see comments that say FNAF lost its horror, and I'm not gonna deny that Security Breach is not a horror but mostly a thriller, which is why Ruin was made more darker and atmospheric in that regard after feedback. But the bright colors of Security Breach go very well with the whole facade that Fazbear Entertainment holds in the Steelwool era. It's kind of like a wrap to hide all the worst stuff imaginable. So yeah, I can appreciate this, honestly. I feel like this is not just a characteristic of the Steelwool era either, but this was just always there when it comes to Fazbear Entertainment. You could see it most clearly in FNAF 6, I think, where you have like the tycoon sections with the funny cutscenes and stuff contrasted with the, you know, darker office section of you like juggling all these fucked up lunatics basically at this point, you know, all four of them. This game also has that, obviously. So yeah, I can appreciate that about Security Breach, I guess. And this is where the glamrocks are coming in. While there is a lot of tragedies that happen with humans, glams are still in the center, and their lives are the epitome of horror in this era. Since they are sentient AI, they feel like humans, so it becomes quite easy to connect with them. I already talked about how this doesn't work for me, but I'm glad that it works for you. Steelwool era is maybe a different story from the old one, but it's still a story. So I mostly kinda just feel sad that you can't enjoy it, and that's it. Yeah, thanks man. So now I want to address some other points that people have raised. Most of them relating to the things that I got wrong with the lore, but also a few other things as well. So this comment is a lengthy one and raises a bunch of points that I think are pretty solid, so let us start from this. Well, if you go chronologically by the video, then yes, I agree that FNAF could have ended on the third part. As for part 4, we didn't know yet, or most people didn't think so back then, that child was the purple guy's son. So the question is how the plot of FNAF 4 relates to the rest of the story. This is right, I painted in the video as if like we already knew by the fourth game that the kid we play as is most definitely the purple guy's son, but we didn't actually, and yeah, you are correct about that. And Scott simply gave those same infamous clues that were more likely to confuse fans than help, and then the infamous dream theory appeared. A lot of people had issues with how I presented the dream theory section of the video, and we will come to that as well, but I'm glad that this commenter at least agrees that at the very least, like, these clues were more likely to confuse people than help, if Dream Theory was not supposed to be canon at least. But we'll come to it. As for Elizabeth being killed, then I myself don't believe that she could have died before the events of the minigames from FNAF 4. Right, I believe as well. I'm not sure why you have raised this point. I don't think I say at any point. Okay. I think this has led to some confusion. That's one. Let's go back to that house in FNAF 4 because there's one interesting detail that I never brought up until now. It looks like William had a daughter too, so where is she? So I think this part of the video must have gotten this commenter a little confused. Admittedly, I myself didn't really do a good job explaining this. I didn't present it this way because I believe that Elizabeth had already died at this point. No. I just wanted a cool transition, I guess you could say, to like change the subject from the sons to the daughter. Oh hey, it looks like William has a daughter too because there's a girl's room here. What about her? What's her story? Like, that was supposed to be this transition. I wasn't trying to argue that like by the time we see this room, Elizabeth is already dead and that's why it's empty. Like no, that was not what I was trying to say here. So I think we had a little misunderstanding there. Now let's continue from here. And I think that baby is a mixture of a more developed robot AI and the soul of a child. I like this interpretation too, honestly. The only interpretation I don't really like is it's only the AI. Because it only being the AI, because of the reasons I listed in the video, doesn't really, appeal to me. I'm not gonna say like doesn't really make sense to me or anything like that because I don't have any evidence against it. Like I say in the video, it's like mostly my headcanon. This might be a bit more logical, honestly, like the soul of a child mixed with the AI of the robot, and maybe like they're either like fighting for control or like one is more dominant but like the other still like shows sign of life as well. It's overall a neat idea that I don't really have any qualms with. Like I don't really have any evidence against it either. It's cool to believe in that too, I think. I just, like I say in the video, I just kind of like the idea of Elizabeth being predominantly in control a bit more. For me, the time trapped in the facility and like constantly shocked, changing an innocent person to this monster is kind of a cool idea. So that's why I'm not big on the developed robot AI stuff, but like this mixture headcanon is pretty cool too. As for the true ending of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, FNAF 6, then yes, the focus is shifted to the Aftons, although it started after part 4. But as for the Happiest Day, the ending is good, but unfortunately or fortunately, it is not a canonical ending, especially for FNAF 3. Yes, it is not a canonical ending. I know that. That's what I was trying to say in the video, but again, I might have done a poor job explaining it. I think that it should have been a canonical ending. It should have been the ending that we got for the end of an era. Like, it should have been a canonical ending to at least the 5 children that were killed, and then we could maybe focus on the Aftons for the later games. As for the FNAF VHS, oh yes, they have more fear, tension and horror than Scott's games, but this is all just an interpretation of the plot from fans and should not be seriously compared with official products. There are just people who compare modern FNAF showing how not scary cute it is and then show FNAF VHS, thus saying that fans do it better, and in general this is what FNAF used to be, although this is not so. Yeah, I get your point. What I was trying to do in the video though was not exactly this. It was more so like showing through fan creations what the fans are most invested in. Not like, hey, FNAF was exactly like FNAF VHS. No, it wasn't. Like, you are correct about this. What I was trying to say there is through how fans make these fan projects like Day Shift at Freddy's and FNAF VHS and stuff, we can kind of see what people tend to be invested in with this series. And like, I think that if again, FNAF 3's ending was the one that we got, that could have been more satisfactory, was what I was trying to say. You are completely correct with this point though. FNAF wasn't like FNAF VHS at all. Maybe you could say FNAF 1 was kind of like it to some degree, but like by the time we got to FNAF 2, like FNAF 2 I think was already much more like colorful and toned down in horror after the first game. As for what modern FNAF is like, the answer is simple. These are the consequences. The consequences of the resumption of Fazbear Entertainment, the consequences of trying to hide the company's terrible past, the consequences of using AI, the consequences of hiding current incidents, the consequences of negligence in many ways, etc. I mean, I guess you could say that like none of this is wrong, but like something having consequences is not really a strong theme. I would say like everything has consequences. This was the case in the older games as well, I mean, and I just don't think it would really make for like a strong connective theme that like ties everything to each other. But I see your point. They have sad moments, but they are not about possessed robots, but about robots with personalities and people associated with them. For example, Roxy and Cassie. I already stated my opinions on this, so I'm not going to dwell on it, but I'm happy that, again, like people can resonate with this, even if I can't. There are fan games based on Security Breach, but there are not many of them. And the games themselves, Security Breach and Ruin. Okay, so before I go on with this one, sorry for cutting it mid-sentence, I would like for people to like point me towards any examples at all. Because like I said in the video, I'm not looking for like many examples of Security Breach and Ruin. I'm looking for one. I haven't even heard of or seen one. Like I say in the video, emotionally invested. It's been 3 years now since Security Breach was released, and I have yet to see or even hear about one fan game or analog horror project or anything of the sort inspired by that, while it still feels like dozens of them inspired by the old games come out each day. So yeah, like I say in the video, I haven't heard of any at all. Like, I am not asking for dozens. Like, I haven't even heard of one. That's what I was trying to say in the video. I am obviously not expect there to be as much inspired by Security Breach and Ruin as those inspired by the old games. What I was saying there in the video was that I haven't even heard of one. If you have even like a few examples that are like kind of popular, like I am sure that there are like a few really obscure ones that I have never heard of because of their obscurity, but like is there even like one fan game inspired by the new stuff that is like known in the fandom to a sufficient extent? You know what I mean? That was what I was saying at that part of the video. So if you have any examples, I would like to know. So please be sure to comment it down below this video. The one you are watching right now, I mean, not the original video. I guess you could say Glitched Attraction could be kind of a Security Breach fan game, maybe, because like there is Burn Trap and Vanny in it, but it's more of like a Hall of Fame for all the classic games. Besides that, I can't even think of any that like features Vanny or the Mimic or something. There is Freak Bears 3 actually that shows Vanny at the end of the demo, I think, but that's it. Let's go on. And the game themselves, Security Breach and Ruin, are big and completed to do something on such a large scale, and their concepts are very well developed, unlike the old parts. I seriously do not agree with this. This is like the one point in your comment that I don't agree with. These are not complete games to any extent, unless I understood you wrong here. Like if I'm understanding this wrong, like then be sure to like correct me. But Security Breach is obviously not a complete game. There is so much missing from it. Like there are so many areas that are just empty or underutilized, or like you can just easily tell that there was supposed to be more there. Like what is the purpose of Bunny Bowl except of that like one Freddy line that is like cool Easter egg to some people, or like the theater with the fucking comedy bot? What is the purpose of like half of the areas in the game? Concept wise, I agree that it is well developed, but the problem with the game is that they only developed the Pizzaplex and then like failed to actually fill it with the necessary stuff, unlike the old parts 1 to 6. FNAF 1 to 6 had issues too, but I wouldn't really say that any of them feel incomplete, except for maybe like Pizzeria Sim. Pizzeria Sim at parts really feel like there was supposed to be more. But like basically all of them besides that feel very feature complete to me. I mean, you can find them like underwhelming. Maybe you could feel that like there should be more to those games, but I wouldn't really say that they feel incomplete. I would be glad to see, or would make myself, a fan game based on FNAF 3 and improve it and make it a more real horror attraction. So yeah, see, like you could think that like the horror aspect of FNAF 3 is subpar, but that's not really the game being incomplete. So I don't really like agree with this point actually. There are more mods for Security Breach than fan games. Yeah, there are a lot of mods for Security Breach, yeah, and some of them do actually improve the game a lot. I know about that, and that's very cool. Mods can definitely be qualified as fan projects. You are correct to point this out actually. Yes, I guess I could count mods for Security Breach as like fan effort for the game, but again, I would still like expect there to be just like one kind of popular fan game about Security Breach, you know, or like not an analog horror series really, but something of that nature, because like analog horror usually uses the VHS format, and like Security Breach takes so far into the future, like a VHS format wouldn't really fit, I don't think. But besides all the mods, I would still like, again, I know I'm repeating this point a lot, but like I would expect to see just like at least one fan game or fan series that is like kind of popular. Meanwhile, I'm like, even in the recommendations of this video, like you see what the hell is Fazbear's Return, man? I have no idea what this is. It is still like clearly inspired by the older games though, and like I am getting it in my recommended. I have never gotten anything like this for something inspired by Security Breach. Like that is what I mean, you know? Like I already know so many fan games like this, and I'm still like seeing a new one that I've never heard about before. And this has never happened for something inspired by Security Breach. Like that is what I mean. And don't forget about the books. Yes, no matter how much people like them, today they are as important as the games. You are correct about this. I just don't think that this should be the case. It frustrates me that it is the case. It is one reason that I am insistent on not reading them, and the other reason is, as you can tell from the video probably, I am not that invested in the series anymore. I don't know any other game series where additional materials such as books are as important to understand the story. They are usually introduced as a nice bonus, but they are not like mandatory to understand stuff. Ideally, you know what I mean? Like Devil May Cry, for instance, has like light novels and stuff, but you don't really have to read them to understand the games. Old FNAF was also like this. Like in the era of Sister Location and FNAF 6, you had the original novel trilogy. I'm not sure if like the last one was out or not, I'm not sure. But like Henry and her daughter, his daughter Charlie, those were characters that were introduced in the books. Then they made it to FNAF 6, and like you didn't really need to like read the books to understand the ending of the game. Like you didn't need to know that it was Henry, that cassette man was Henry, and that like the daughter was Charlie. You could just like tell that the guy that was burning the place down was the puppet's father, and the girl that was trapped inside the puppet was the one from the minigame, and like you could like easily understand the ending by just knowing those, and it could have its intended effect on you. If they are as important as the games today, I don't think they should be. I think you should be able to follow the games by themselves, and like they should be able to present a cohesive narrative with like a central theme by themselves. But what do I know? Maybe this is the new way to do things. I mean, like there aren't any rules against it, I guess, but it's still not something that I'm satisfied with if this is the case. And they are bloodier and more brutal than all the official parts of FNAF. They also have many touching stories that can make some cry. I'll take your word for it. Like I said, I'm not invested enough to actually read any of them, but I'll take your word for it. But it's still your right whether you like the new FNAF or not. The main thing is that it doesn't go as far as insulting others in the interest. Yes, you are completely right. I hope that I made a good job correcting my mistake in this video. This is said not only to the author of the video, but to everyone else. Yes, everyone. Be nice. Do not insult people for their interests. Like this stuff doesn't have that much weight. Like it's just games, man. We all like and dislike our silly little games. It's not that important to like hurt people over it. Yeah, I'll leave this at heart. Now to go over some specific lore bits that I got wrong. I wish I didn't go into the lore as much as I did. Like, I wish I didn't spend as much time explaining everything as I did in the video, because then like half of these wouldn't have come up as an issue anyway. But like I said, I was kind of making the video for that one friend rather than the actual intended audience, so my bad. Again, I will try to fix that in the future, but let's start with this one. You forget that Scrap Baby wasn't fooled by a mere audio lure. It was a device that actually simulated a child, even emitting heat that simulates the body temperature of a human. Since Baby is programmed to capture children, she was lured by it. If you remember the blueprints from FNAF 6, it's the one that says RASC, or Remote Activated Simulated C, which I believe stands for child. Yes, I do remember that blueprint. As I said in the response, I thought that was a different device that was used to lure them to the back alley. I wasn't aware that it was used in the vent system, but it makes sense now that I think about it. I will make sure to correct this in the follow-up video, as I mentioned in the pinned comment. Thanks. With how Henry says in the ending, like a labyrinth of sounds and smells, you know, he does say smell. It should have been obvious to me, like this is my own shortcoming. I didn't notice this at all, so thank you person, WWTWW, for correcting me. There is this one. There's a video analyzing William Afton's voice lines, and in Sister Location when he spoke, he was calm and smug. It's obviously gonna carry over to Scrap Trap. He's obviously tricked into going here, but acts like he chose to, and we kill him at the end, so he isn't really supposed to be intimidating in this game. This is a good point, but I just think that it's a weird choice for something that is supposed to be a horror game, and like a villain that is supposed to be like vicious and intimidating. I can see this being the choice that was made, but then I would like still question why that choice was made in the first place. Like, it is still a downgrade from Springtrap, but you do make a good point. I will heart this actually. Okay, let's now come to the Dream Theory issue. I got criticized so much for this. I feel like people actually got more mad about this than the fact that I utilized the language that was like insulting the fans, basically. Get your priorities straight, people. Like, this is not as big of an issue, but let's address this finally. I'm going to go over this comment because this person actually provides lengthy explanation of what I got wrong. My main issue with this video is the belief that Dream Theory was retconned. I hope you weren't one of those Game Theory speaks the Bible fans, but for God's sake, if you actually believe that this was ever canon, then you don't deserve to complain about the newer games, because your belief of the old games is flawed. Not that I'm saying the new games are anything but slop. Then I wrote in response, I have been asking this to other people on the comment section and I couldn't get a concrete answer yet. Can you actually elaborate on what I got wrong about Dream Theory? I have seen like maybe 10 of the GT FNAF vids out of the 100 they made. I'm not taking their word as that of a god. I'm going off of Scott's sins that I showed on the screen and the minigames in 4, which I can only interpret as evidence for the Dream Theory. I believe that it is then decanonized because FNAF 6 exists. That is my basic thought process, which may happen to align with MatPats. I'm open to corrections like I said above. If you can explain why I'm wrong, I'll add it to the list. So they provided an explanation. Props to them. Thank you for actually taking the time to write all this out. Okay, I'll cover the logic first and then the evidence you are saying. It might be long though. Okay, first of all, Dream Theory has no logic. None whatsoever. The fact that David can dream up the locations and animatronics, sure. David is, I believe, the name of the crying child in 4, by the way. I don't know where we confirmed the name. I just call him the crying child or the little brother of Michael or something like that. I didn't know he had a confirmed name. I know there was like Evan Afton and stuff like that that was like proposed by the fans based on some evidence, but it was not completely confirmed. But okay, the fact that David can dream up the locations and animatronics, sure. FNAF 3 he shouldn't have really been able to, but let's just say it's because it's a scary setting. However, he shouldn't be able to listen to phone calls that are private, and he would never have been around, for example, the Springlock training tape, especially since he doesn't know how they work. And then the FNAF 2 and 1 calls take place in the future, covering events like the MCI. MCI stands for those that don't know, Missing Children Incident, by the way. The MCI, Bite of 87, DCI. Okay, I don't know what DCI is actually. Okay, so So the MCI is the missing children incident, which points to the 5 children that were stuffed in the original suits, and the DCI is the dead children incident, apparently, which refers to 5 more children that were later killed and stuffed in the toy animatronics, or I guess at least possessed the toy animatronics. I think that there are 6 children in total. I don't think the toys are possessed. There seems to be always 5, because FNAF 3 Good Ending is not canon as far as I know. So the 5 children spirits gets released in the FNAF 6 ending instead of the FNAF 3 ending. And there's also the puppet that William has killed. So there are 6 children that are killed. Well, if you count like David and Elizabeth and Michael and stuff like that, you know, we get into the Aftons, there are more obviously, but like besides the Aftons, I mean. But okay, whatever, that's not important to the Dream Theory thing. Anyway, numerous investigations that only started after the MCI. So unless David could see the future, Dream Theory is impossible. But like, isn't the Dream Theory the theory that like all of these are imaginary anyway? Like, he could imagine the future. Don't you ever dream about you being in the future? Like, this is just like kind of a weird argument to me. Also, like, about the spring locks, the fact that he doesn't know how they work. How do we know he doesn't know? Because he's the purple guy's son. The purple guy knows how they work. Couldn't his kid also know how they work? Like, maybe he asks dad about his job, or like maybe snoops around like and like discovers documents or stuff like that, or like maybe he imagines it for like the setting of FNAF 3 and stuff based on like the Spring Bunny toy. That's a finger trap. I don't see why he shouldn't be able to imagine spring locks. Like, I don't see why he shouldn't be able to imagine any of this. Like, we're talking about imagination here. It's so open-ended. Anyway, for the evidence, for the day minigames, the only notable dream moments are when David sees Plush Trap and the toys. Plush Trap was likely something Fazbear made to make their brutal spring lock system seem less scary to kids. So yeah, this is what I was talking about. Like, couldn't he like imagine a spring lock system based on the Plush Trap toy? And like, the one he imagines could be different than the actual spring lock system if everything besides the mini games of FNAF 4 are dreams. Like, if we are going by Dream Theory, like maybe the real spring locks that his dad tinkers with at work, maybe they work a little differently than the ones he imagines, but like, he kind of puts some of his own imagination into it. Plush Trap was likely something Fazbear made to make their brutal spring lock system seem less scary to kids, so Spring Trap being based off of him doesn't really hold much water. Again, why not? It's a finger trap. The kid is traumatized. Couldn't he imagine a giant Spring Bunny trap that traps a whole person? Like this is the issue with Dream Theory anyway. You can dream anything, dude. You can dream anything. I don't like get any of these points saying that the kid shouldn't be able to dream this. Why not? Why shouldn't he be able to imagine his dad as a murderer that then gets trapped by the souls of the kids and yada yada? Like, what is limiting his imagination? Like, what is keeping Dream Theory from being possible? Actually, I still do not see anything that would prevent that from happening. The toys again are something that Fazbear made for the time, and in fact the toy animatronics are actually based on the toys of the original animatronics, which I think we learn in AR. But AR came after FNAF 6, and I already said I believe it is decanonized because FNAF 6 exists. I already believe that it was retconned before AR. So something that we learn in AR isn't really an evidence against the retcon. So the day minigames don't help much. Like, so far you haven't convinced me, but let's keep going. The hints are based on the day's minigames, so they aren't really much different. The missing beak is just to get you to realize the connection between the toys, with Mangle being the more obvious toy. I don't really understand what this means, Mangle being the more obvious toy. Okay, Mangle being the more obvious toy means, okay, Mangle is more easily noticeable in the minigame. That's what you mean. Okay, Mangle is the more easily noticeable toy in the minigames, which are there for you to make the connection between FNAF 4 and FNAF 2. Okay. The Shadows one is just to show that David saw William helping the employee and thought that it was malicious due to the rumors going around, likely due to other kids misunderstanding the spring locks or making fun of David's nightmares. So okay, dude, everything you are saying is just convincing me more about Dream Theory. It is just convincing me more that Dream Theory was intended. So David sees his father and thinks that he is malicious. Plush Trap was likely something that Fazbear made to make their brutal springlock system seem less scary to kids, but it could easily have the reverse effect. It is, at the end of the day, introducing the springlock system to the kids. So we have a reason for the kid to dream about springlocks, and we have a reason for the kid to dream about his father being evil. So we have reason for the kid to imagine Springtrap. Okay, let's continue. The 4 games, 1 story is trying to show that this story is primarily about the Aftons, as an Afton is present in every game, but the murders are only present in 1 and 2. Also, FNAF 4 was supposed to be the last game, so it makes sense to round it all off like that. Yes, it was supposed to be the last game, but then it wasn't. But then the community says, oh, it was all a dream because of the clock. I don't even remember anything about the clock. Again, I was just going off the minigames in 4 and what Scott hinted at. I don't know anything about like how people connect the clock to the Dream Theory, but anyway, it was just Scott including a creepy noise to signal the end of the night. And he had to retcon the good ending and delay the happiest day till FNAF 6 because he needed to make SL to prove the community wrong. I don't think he needed to make SL to go, haha, you got my hints wrong. I think he needed to make SL to go, oh shit, I made a mistake. I need to like retcon this. He did it to prove the community wrong because the community thought that Dream Theory was real but didn't like it. I'm not crazy, right? I remember Dream Theory being like kind of hated, honestly, like because it's so unsatisfying. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, but this hasn't convinced me. If anything, it's convinced me towards the opposite, like towards Dream Theory even more. Then I answered, thank you for your elaborate response. Sorry I took so long to answer. I knew I had promised to add it as another bullet point on the list above, but at this point I believe a follow-up video will be better to address all the criticisms and corrections I have received for this video. I will be bringing up your point. You have a sound argument and I'd like more people to see it. I think it will be better in video format since I feel that more people will see it compared to the lengthy list above that requires a lot of reading. So you might be confused why I said here you have a sound argument but then like said that it didn't convince me. The thing is, like, it is still a sound way to interpret things. I just don't think that it does that much to prove Dream Theory wrong. But like, you could believe that the missing beak hint was a way to like get you to realize that the toys in the minigames were the predecessor to the animatronics in 2. You could say the 4 games 1 story thing was a way to signal how the kid we were playing as were connected to the Aftons and that an Afton is present in every game, like it says here. Like, it is still like a reasonable like alternative interpretation, but I don't think it does much to disprove the other interpretation. And lastly, I want to go over these 3 comments here. First of all, by KillaK47, those trailer reactions to me felt like it tells you something with how FNAF is now. So no, like I said earlier in the video, those trailer reactions, I didn't show them for anyone to come to this conclusion. Like I said, those people that I showed already saw the series in that light. It's just that it's only now that FNAF has made it to the big scene and like is showcased in PlayStation State of Play events and stuff that we have started to get these reactions. But the perspective towards the series has always been like that by the majority of people. The trailer reactions, at least those trailer reactions, aren't really good indicators about how FNAF is now. If it were fan reactions, if it were the reactions of people that have already been fans of the series before, like reacting in a non-enthusiastic way, then yes, you could say that they indicate how FNAF is now compared to before. But again, those trailer reactions were by people that were not invested in the series in the first place anyway. So yeah, just wanted to clarify that. I was trying to find this comment earlier, but I couldn't, and now I found it. One word for what modern FNAF is about: money. So I've already gone over this. Again, this is not the issue at all with the Steelwool games, I don't think. They are not like greedy bastards that just intentionally produce low effort slop that could make the most amount of money for the least amount of effort. That is not the issue with new FNAF games at all, I don't think. Thankfully. That would be infinitely worse than what we have now, I think. And like I said, I was unfair to say that the new games weren't trying to be anything. I don't think the issue is that it's just about money. And it could be about money, while again, still trying to be a unique and special thing for the fans. I will say though, the Into the Pit game adaptation has a lot of love put into it and is actually good. Maybe that's where FNAF should go to nowadays. I did recently watch someone play Into the Pit in its entirety. It looks super fucking good. I really liked what they did with that game from what I saw. I do think that's where FNAF will be going nowadays, but it will also be going in the Steelwool direction too. I think we will have like two directions that FNAF will be going in simultaneously from now on. Megacat Studios made the Into the Pit game and it was beloved, so I think they will be adapting more like Fazbear Fright's stories into games like that. They did like tease in a way their next game, which will be about Eleanor, I believe, because of the minigame in Into the Pit. So I think that those Megacat games will be made alongside the Steelwool games, which will be focusing more on the canon timeline with the Mimic and Vanny and stuff. So I think you will get what you want, but we will also be getting the Steelwool games as usual alongside it, which I think is good. Lastly, I want to respond to this comment, which says they should have kept FNAF 1-3 the same and had FNAF 4 and a sister location be spin-offs not following the main story, have the missing children incident Charlie and Afton's story end in FNAF 3, and have a new villain with the Afton era with him and Elizabeth being the main villains. Just switch up some stuff from 4 and sister location and it would work. Then have Baby be the main villain for a couple games until we get a copycat killer. I wholeheartedly agree with this. It is so funny to me to this day how Elizabeth is just wasted after we were promised so much with how good Baby was in Sister Location. She is definitely the character I am the most invested in the series. I was most interested, I mean, then they butchered her. Sister Location has a lot of problems, but like in itself it is engaging as hell in terms of story. I legitimately think how they use Baby and like how she mimics Elizabeth's voice in the end, like how for the first time someone else actually toys with you instead of you toying with them, and like manipulates you into killing yourself instead of killing you directly. That stuff was good, man. Like Baby had a lot of promise to become the main villain, but then we got Scrap Baby and she was just crazy. Like it's like going from Arcane Jinx to League Jinx. Like not that much of a leap, obviously. Like Jinx from Arcane is obviously like in a different fucking level than fucking Baby from Sister Location, but like still it feels like that. It's so disappointing, man, how Scrap Baby turned out, especially with that sick ass design. Like I legitimately love that design. I think that's like since making the video I figured out more about why I like it so much. So in the video I said like it's so stupid and over the top edgy that it wraps back around to being awesome. I don't think it's that. I think it's because Scrap Baby looks like she's from something more action oriented than FNAF. Like she looks like she's from Twisted Metal or something like that. You know what I mean? She reminds me of the giant mech that Dollface character had in the 2013 remake. She feels like she could fit in like a fighting game or an action game. Like she has rollerblades for like omnidirectional movements, if you will. I'm not sure if that's the correct word for it, but you know what I mean. Like an armored core basically. Obviously not fully, but like somewhat, you know what I mean? She has the claw, obviously, and she also has like, I don't like her personality for the game that she's in, but her personality, when you think about it, is perfect for like a fighting game, for instance. You won't die, but you wish you could, and like, let's see how many pieces I can cut you into. Like, those are fucking fighting game intros. Like, she would fit perfectly as this fucking crazy type character in a game like Guilty Gear or like Skullgirls or something like that. She would fit so well in Skullgirls, I think. I think she just belongs in a different game. And like, she has the perfect design for it, basically. So yeah, those are all the points I wanted to bring up in this video. There are obviously a lot more comments under this video, but I've already like looked at each and like gave a heart or answered all the things that I thought needed to be answered. So yeah, thank you everyone so much for watching the video and like leaving all these thoughtful comments, showing so much support. It's been incredible, and also providing all this like thoughtful and constructive criticism as well. So with all of that being said, I guess as always, take care of yourselves and thank you for watching.